Hello, okay, today we're doing another reading lesson, and there's going to be 4 parts to this for follow-up work so that you'll have follow-up work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Yay, how exciting. Um, so I'll walk you through it as we go, and I read the story, and then there's also there's a poem that goes along with this lesson too. But our reading skill that we're going to focus on this week are text and graphic features. So those things like labels or titles, headings, are graphic features like pictures and diagrams. And then we have captions for photographs. They serve a purpose. What do they tell us? What do they do for the story? So as we read and as you go back and reread, you're going to be really focusing on this and making your own graphic organizer to talk about the different text features and the purpose that they serve. So first off, I'm just going to show you, this is your vocabulary. I'll include it with your lesson. I'm not going to ask you necessarily to do anything with it for follow-up work, but it's always an option. You know, you can read through these words. Any words that you're not sure on the meaning, I encourage you to look up in a dictionary. And if you're looking for extra something to do, you can, use some of these words in a sentence or challenge yourself to write a story using as many of these words as you like. So that's optional work, but we'll come in contact with these words as we're reading our nonfiction story. So, like I said, our reading skill, our target skill, text and graphic features. As you read A Tree is Growing, look for features that will help you understand the information. Text features, such as labels, captions, and sidebars, will give you more details about the main text. Graphic features, including pictures and diagrams, will show you what the text describes. Use a chart like the one below to list the features you find and their purposes. So you'll just, on a sheet of paper, you'll make 3 columns. Text or graphic feature, what it is, what page you find it on, and then the purpose. Okay? Our topic is trees. One of my favorite topics, as you all know. Trees are a great natural resource. Apart from their beauty, trees provide shade and food. Trees protect people from windstorms and floods. People use the wood from trees to build houses and to keep their homes warm, as well as to make useful things such as furniture, paper, and pencils. As a resource, trees are especially valuable because they are renewable. This means that new trees can be planted to replace the trees that people use. In A Tree is Growing, you will read about the science of how trees grow. You may find some fascinating facts. Okay, and here are meet the author. We've got Arthur Doros. You can read about him if you like. S.D. Schindler. It is an informational text. Our genre. Tree is growing. A giant tree may look as if it has always been big, but even the biggest trees keep growing and changing. In the spring, you can see that a tree is growing as you watch buds on the branches unfold into leaves. Bristlecone pines are the oldest known living trees on Earth. Some have been growing for 5,000 years, since before the pyramids in Egypt were built. So this is what we call a sidebar. Leaves can be skinny, needles, or big heart shapes. Whatever shape or size a leaf is, it makes food for the tree. A kind of sugar is made in the leaves. Trees use the sugar as food. And then you can see we have all these pictures of different trees and the labels of what kind of tree it is. I'm going to read those all for you. You can go back and do that. It says, the sugary water made in the leaves is mixed with other tree juices called sap. The food in the sap is carried throughout the tree. Where a branch breaks or where bark is cut, sap oozes out of a tree. The strong smells of some saps can keep insects from eating the trees they live on. So, and then you have on your sidebar more information here. If you rub a sassafras leaf, the sap smells spicy. I love the smell of sassafras. Maple syrup is the boiled sap of sugar maple trees. Oh, here's some information about the baobab tree. Baobab trees store water in the trunks. When a baobab tree trunk is swollen with water, it is round and fat. In dry weather, the tree gets water from the trunk, and then the trunk gets thinner. A tree needs sunlight, air, soil, and water to grow. Water travels through passages in the trunk and branches up. Water travels through passages in the trunk and branches up to the leaves. The water moves up the trunk as if it is being sucked through a straw. Sugary sap made in the leaves travels down the other passages in the trunk, taking food to different parts of the tree. So you can see here, this is what we call a diagram, right? You can look inside the branch and see how the different layers and how the water is going through it. Like veins in the human body carrying our blood. All right. I'm not going to read those sidebars. You guys can go back and read the very fascinating information. The roots of a tree grow into the ground and hold the tree in place. Roots are like pipelines. They absorb water and carry it into the tree. A tree's roots spread out far underground. They usually grow out a little farther than the tree's branches. Trees need minerals to grow. Minerals are tiny particles that are found in the soil. Salt is one kind of mineral. Like salt, other minerals dissolve in water. They are mixed in with the water that roots absorb and are carried throughout the tree. Mushrooms growing among the roots of a tree can help it get minerals. And the mushrooms and plants growing near a tree get water brought by the tree's roots. So they kind of have a symbiotic relationship there. And we got some labels. All this good stuff you can go back and read and look at on your own. Bark is the skin of a tree. The outer layer of bark protects the tree. When an oak tree is young, the bark is as smooth as a baby's skin. As the tree grows older, the bark becomes rough and cracked, just like our skin. Not as rough and cracked, but still. We call them wrinkles. Interesting information. More information on the sidebars. You've got a diagram here of the trees. Here we see a little box that says text and graphic features. How do the captions, labels, and diagrams help you understand the selection? So something to think about. How is it helping you understand how trees grow, how trees function, how they get their food? The bark you can touch and see is not growing anymore. Underneath it is a layer of growing bark called cambium. Each year, cambium growth is a ring in the wood of a tree. As trees add new cambium, the trees become bigger around. Next to the cambium are two layers called xylem and phloem. Water from the roots moves through the xylem and sap from the sap from the leaves moves through the phloem. Trees grow bigger around and they grow taller. As a tree grows, lower branches may fall off, making the trunk look longer. But the branches do not move upward on the trunk. A tree grows taller only at the top, as the tips of the top branches grow upward. If you find a mark on a tree trunk today, that mark would stay at the same height for as long as the tree lives. And they're showing you what it looks like as the tree grows from 10 to 200 years. Oh, sequoias. Sequoias are some of the tallest trees in the world, over 300 feet tall. Yeah, I would love to see some sequoias in person. They're amazing. Okay. Read that. In the spring, you can smell tree flowers. Tree flowers are found in many shapes and colors, have many different smells. Parts of the flowers grow to become seeds. Oak trees have dangling clumps of flowers called catkins that help make acorns, the seeds of an oak tree. Okay. So you can see birds, insects, and even bats are attracted to flowers to drink their sweet juices. When they brush the flowers, the animals get a powder called pollen on them. The animals carry the pollen to other flowers. When the pollen mixes with certain parts of the flowers, seeds grow. Wind also helps pollinate flowers. Oh, nah. We've talked about pollinators before. An oak tree can drop more than 50,000 acorns in 1 year. Woo. Only a few of them grow into oak trees. Most are eaten, are crushed, rot, or land in a place where they cannot take root. Acorns can be carried away and dropped or buried by animals to grow in new places. Other kinds of seeds blow in the wind or float on water. So they show you some different seeds here. And here we've got different kinds of trees, and there's that squirrel carrying that acorn. In cool climates, trees stop growing in autumn. The leaves of many trees stop making sugary food for the tree, and they lose their green color. Then you can see the red, brown, yellow, and orange colors that are also in the leaves. Pine trees and some other trees have needles or leaves that do not change color in autumn. When leaves fall to the ground, insects and worms eat them. The chewed and eaten bits of leaves make the soil better for growing trees and other plants. Trees rest in the cold of winter and their branches are bare. They may look as if they are dead, but look closely and you can see small buds that will become leaves and flowers in the spring. In the spring, listen to the wind rustling the leaves. The trees are growing again. They're growing right now. Okay, so your follow-up work for today. Text and graphic features. Informational texts such as a tree is growing gives facts and details about a topic. Besides the main text, readers can find information in other ways. Sidebars are a text feature next to the main text. A sidebar gives more details about a part of the main text and may also have pictures, which we saw throughout this text. Graphic features include pictures and diagrams that help to explain the main text. Labels identify parts of pictures and diagrams or show how something works. Look back at page 96 in A Tree is Growing. Here, labeled pictures show different kinds of leaves. On page 99, a diagram shows how water travels up a tree. Use a chart like the one below to help you identify each feature and its purpose. So you're going to go back and look at page 96 and page 99. Say what text or graphic feature, they already gave you the page, and the purpose. And then I'd also like you to find at least one more on your own that you talk about the purpose, okay? So that is today's follow-up work. Here just talks about domain-specific vocabulary. A tree is growing provides scientific information about how trees grow. The selection includes special words that are part of the domain or subject. Domain is a fancy word for subject of science. Use context clues to figure out what a science word means. In the sidebar on page 104 is the word cambium. The text on page 105 says that cambium is a layer of growing bark. The text also explains the word xylem and phloem. Those are examples of the domain-specific vocabulary. Okay, so your work for Tuesday, this page is optional. You don't have to do the questions. I'm going to ask that you do the write about reading response. And it says, think about what you learned in A Tree is Growing. How do you feel about trees now? Use text evidence and your own ideas to write a poem about trees. Or you can just write a story. It doesn't have to be a poem. It doesn't have to rhyme. Share your poem with your parent. Please include it. I would love to see it. You know that I love to see anything about trees. So writing a poem about trees, but use your text evidence. So go back and use some of these. They give you like all kinds of cool examples of trees and seeds and animals even. So get creative. Write something really cool based on your text evidence. It says your writing tip, descriptive words will help your readers picture what you write about. Think of colorful adjectives and verbs to describe your trees. to use some great adjectives. Okay, so that's your follow-up work for Tuesday. Wednesdays goes along with this poem. This is one of my all-time favorite poems. I actually had to memorize this in 6th grade, and I remember most of it. I quizzed myself before starting reading this to you, and I forgot a couple lines, but I still remember most of it. Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. It says, "Whose woods are these? I think I know. His house in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse might think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep," by Robert Frost. Okay, so your work for Wednesday is to choose one of these compare text prompts and write about it. So you can choose to do the text to text, text to self, or text to world. I'm not going to read those examples for you. The text to world is a little bit more, I believe they have you, no, this one doesn't. Sometimes the text to world involves a little bit more research, but this one doesn't really. So pick one or more if you like to do for your work for Wednesday. So you can just write, text to text if that's what you choose, and then your paragraph. All of these will be writing a paragraph, so just depending, it gives you the different topics of what you're going to do. Thursday's work is just a little grammar work, all right? So your grammar lesson with this is using the verb be and helping verbs. The verbs am, is, was, are, and were are forms of the verb be. They do not show action. They tell what something or what someone or something is or was. So our subject, I, in the present tense is am, past tense was. I am happy. I was hungry. You are or you were. He, she, it is. He, she, it was. It's the past tense. A singular noun like a tree is growing. A tree was cut down. Plural nouns, trees are incredibly helpful to us. And the past tenses were. Okay, sometimes the words has and have help other verbs to show past time. Has and have are called helping verbs. So if our subject he, she, it, he has watched the trees grow. Then it's a helping verb. I, you, we, they have grown very tall. So for your try this, it says, write each sentence correctly using the verb form that best completes each sentence. So you're going to rewrite. You have 3 sentences there. I is or am a great tree climber. So you're going to put the correct verb in the sentence. All right. And then here we have just how we can join sentences to make them smoother. We've talked about this. So when 2 sentences have the same predicate, you can put the sentence together. Join the 2 subjects and use the word and between them. So that's our conjunction when we combine sentences. Join the 2 subjects and use the word and between them. You may have to change the forms of the verb be and have to go with their subjects. So for example, your short sentences, the Nile River is long, the Amazon River is long. Our predicates are the same, is long, is long. So our longer, smoother sentence would be, the Nile River and the Amazon River are long. All right? So you don't really have to do anything with that. Just these 3 sentences. Not bad at all, right? That's your Thursday work. Okay? So I will, like I said, I will include this as a PDF document up in Google Classroom, and you could submit each part that way. or you can take pictures of the work you do each day and then submit all at once on Seesaw. Your choice, whatever's easier. If either format is too difficult, you can always email me your work, okay? So, so that is our reading lesson and follow-up work for the week. Enjoy!